Anyone who has a serious criminal conviction will be barred from getting a taxi licence under plans being set out today. The government wants to introduce stricter background checks in England and is even considering forcing cabs to have CCTV to protect vulnerable passengers. Our transport correspondent Tom Burridge has the details.
Hello, just from licensing, Emma. How are you?
I'm fine. Spot checks in Newcastle.
Check if that's all right.
Here they've tightened the rules for issuing taxi licences after private hire cabs were used by a gang over a number of years to groom and abuse girls and young women. 18 people were jailed in 2017. And 29 drivers have had their licences revoked in the past year. 4 of them had been previously convicted of sexual offences. In response, Newcastle joined 10 other councils in the northeast of England to create a single licensing body, so the same standards and checks are applied when issuing licences.
I think the local authorities are all cognisant of the fact that vehicles and drivers will work across authority areas, and therefore it's vital that we share information between ourselves to ensure that any public safety issues that we identify with drivers are made available to all.
Now the government wants a common rulebook for all authorities in England and Wales. So if someone is denied a taxi licence in one area, they wouldn't be able to get one from another council, which is more lenient. That is still possible today. Under the plans, criminal background checks would also be compulsory. Mandatory CCTV in all taxis is being considered, but privacy is an issue. A government consultation will now run for several weeks. Tom Burridge, BBC News.
And let's talk now to Steve Wright, chairman of the Licensed Private Hire Car Association. Steve, morning to you. Thanks very much for your time this morning. Currently, someone can be deemed unfit to drive a taxi in one local authority, and that same person can go to another local authority and try to get a licence to drive a taxi. That clearly can't continue, can it?
No, it's madness, and it's been like that since 1976, when an Act of Parliament was put in place to let every local authority except London do their own thing. And the consequence of that has been good rules, bad rules and terrible rules.
It's time for some joined up thinking then.
Absolutely.
What do you, in your association, want to see coming out of this consultation then?
Well, I was actually on the committee that John Hayes, the Secretary of State, invited to discuss this. And we want national standards, we want national enforcement, we want national rules. Currently, an enforcement officer from Birmingham, if somebody from Northampton turned up, couldn't do anything about that particular driver and vice versa. The whole system is a nonsense. And the fact that you can be CRB checked in one authority and prevented from working, and then the next day go and sign up in another authority is madness.
And is this something that has the support of all good drivers out there?
Of course, everybody in the industry, myself included, and our trade association has been campaigning for this for a long time. We were instrumental in getting the Act of Parliament in London with the Susie Lemplou Trust, the safety group, and it's more than overdue. The Susie Lemplou Trust, of course, the safety group, were on the committee that we're on, and we're actually hosting a conference in Manchester in April to bring all the stakeholders together to discuss this.
Are there any negatives in this process as far as you're concerned?
Well, you mentioned the CCTV, and we've done some survey and extensive work on this. And there is a privacy issue because private hire vehicles in particular, which are not flagged down on the street, are, of course, privately booked. And they're booked because people want privacy. And that's a key thing. It's a difficult subject because there's a fine balance between getting safety in place for drivers and passengers and also making a very costly and expensive system that would prohibit drivers from being able to afford it. So I think the fact that the DFT have consulted on this is a very good step forward. We're looking forward to being able to discuss this in April and take it a lot further, hopefully.
CCTV, of course, would protect drivers too, wouldn't it? And I think the plan would be that this material, anything recorded on that, would only ever be seen if it was needed in a court case. But of course, there must be concerns that, despite that plan, that images might leak somehow.
Well, the problem is the data protection. The problem is who's monitoring this stuff. And the problem is the privacy. I mean, we used to have the England football team in my company many years ago, and I can assure you that they wouldn't want to be videoed, neither would business leaders that are discussing private things in the back of the vehicle. There's a fine balance, and I think the consultation and a lot of dialogue on this is the way forward.
So images, perhaps, rather than sound?
Well, again, images. Who's got the images? Where will they go? Who will keep them? What will the cost of keeping them be? It's a very complex matter. And we're absolutely in favour of safety, but we need to get the balance right. And I think the government consulting on this really is the way forward. We're going to have this wide-ranging discussion in April in Manchester. And I do think that we will come with the proper outcome with the Secretary of State.
OK. Steve, thanks for talking to us this morning. Steve Wright, Chairman of the Licensed Private Hire Car Association.